Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing well. Today's a very exciting day because, as you will have seen from the title, I'm going to be setting up my 2024 Hobonichi Weeks. This is the Taro Okamoto Tower of the Sun weeks. I was initially going to get the Another Night of Falling Stars, I think it's called, one. But then I saw this one and I kept thinking about it, and I think the other one is beautiful, and I know a lot of people got that for 2024, but I don't have an excuse to use 2 weeks, and this just was calling out to me. I also really like the botanical illustrated one. I forget what the illustrator is called, but this kind of version of the weeks, but I did get it in the Hon, so I'm also very excited to move into this in January, but this doesn't start until the 1st of January, so this is just gonna have to stay in a corner for now. I keep kind of looking at it every week and thinking, okay, it's like only 4 weeks until I move into it, 5 at this point, I think, but I'm very excited to start this. Obviously, I am in Hobonichi Weeks at the moment. However, I really don't like this cover. I only moved into the weeks midway through the year, and I could only get this one because it was the only one that was left on the Stilo website, which is where I get all of my Hobonichi products. And I like it, I just don't like it. Like, I like it as a pattern, I just don't like it on the weeks. It's very chaotic, and it's not something that I can just keep on my desk. So I either have it open on my desk or I have it closed in a drawer. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to have a book that I'm actually going to genuinely enjoy having on my desk and around me at all times. So this will be my last weekly spread in the current weeks, and then this one starts from the 27th of November. Obviously this one does go all the way until the end of the year, but because I started it late anyways, I just want to move into this straight up, and hopefully complete it. I am going to switch to a voiceover in a second so I can kind of comment everything that I'm doing, because I can't journal and talk at the same time, but I do want to give a bit of context to what I'm doing. Obviously, if you don't really care for that and you just want to kind of use this for background company, feel free to put on your own music or anything that you would like in the background, but I will be recording a bit of a voiceover to kind of explain what I'm doing for anyone that is interested. I'm going to be setting up I'm not going to set up any weekly spreads because, as I said, this doesn't start until next week, but I will start a bit of decorating. There's no November calendar, but there is, because obviously you're only in there for 4 days in November, but the December calendar is present in the book, so I'll start decorating a bit of this, and then I have a lot of things that I want to set up in the notes pages at the back, but I'll kind of talk you through everything that I'm doing. I did kind of mark down everything that I want to do in here, and then I also want to go through all of the weekly spreads and kind of note down anything that I know is happening on specific days already, so I don't forget. But that's it. I'm assuming this is going to be quite a long one, so maybe grab yourself a cup of tea or something to keep you company. I've just had lunch, so no tea for me, but I do have my water, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're having a good day. So I wanted to start going through the book chronologically. I didn't end up doing it all the way. So I did the calendar spreads first, and then went to set up the notes pages, and then came back and did the weeklies. Obviously, I've not set up the weeklies as I normally do. I normally just set them up week to week with my running to-do list on one side and then day-specific events in the daily sections. What I have done, and I'll go more in depth about it later, is just set up any information that I already have now, mostly university related, about classes or potential exam dates, anything that is out of the ordinary in terms of my timetable and all of that. I've set it up either in the calendar or in the weeklies, or in both. I've not really put down anything in pen so far in those pages, and anything that isn't confirmed yet, especially. I have so normally, and this is something that I do in general, if I know that a lecture is cancelled or anything like that, I will just pencil it in my weekly spread, just using my regular pencil. I don't want that to like stand out as much as my actual important tasks for the day that I write in pen do, but I do still want it to be there because I will forget otherwise. And because these may still like be subject to changes or anything like that, I have just penciled those in. But I did want to do a bit of decoration for the calendar, and I wanted to write down the things that I know are going to happen. So I have a practical at the end of this month that I wanted to write down. My dad's birthday, my mum's birthday, my own birthday, like close friends, grandmothers, all of that I did write down. I might then go through and add like other friends' birthdays, but I need to like go through all of my calendar to do that, and I knew that would take ages. The whole setup took about an hour. I think I had like 58 minutes of footage overall, and everything is sped up by 2, so it's like times 2, because otherwise would literally be here for ages, and this is going to be a rambly enough video already. You don't need to listen to me ramble for a whole hour. So I did want to sticker a lot more. My intention was to use a lot more stickers, especially in this spread. You saw earlier that I wanted to use one of these big really, really lovely stickers that I have from Stationery Pal. I love these so much. I've used them a few times in my weekly spreads, and I really like them. But the only place where it would have made sense for me to put it would have covered up Christmas Day, and I didn't want to like cover that up already. Like if I end up not writing anything in there, fine. Maybe I will put that sticker down at the end of the month, but it felt a bit weird to cover like an important day, I suppose. Just because I don't really write a lot in my calendar. I just write like celebrations and important things that I want to remember when I look back at it, so it didn't really make sense for me. And then here I'm just going through and adding birthdays all over. My main goal to kind of set the weeks up was literally just to have it so any of like these things that I've been writing down that I know are going to happen next year. I've been keeping a list in my previous weeks to then move into this one. Any of these things that I know are going to happen and that I kind of have to remember, I know they're in there and I don't have to worry about them anymore. Because I've gotten like a bunch of lists from professors of, you know, lecture plans and all of those kinds of things. And if they're just in a list that is related to one subject and they're not actually written in my planner on the day that I know that thing is going to happen, I will end up showing to class on a day where I don't have class, or, you know, the opposite, like the other way around. So that was like the most important thing to set up. However, I did also want to spend some time setting up my notes pages. So I'll leave links below to like my last few journaling videos in case you're not familiar with my system in general. But the way that I've been using the back pages, or well, the majority of this year, has been to keep running lists. So I have like a running to film list, I have an art making tracker, I have a wish list, I had a few pages about the zine that I've been working on to keep track of like costs and expenses and all of that, and make sure that I was on track with everything. I've had health trackers in the past, all of those kinds of things that I prefer to keep in there compared to my regular journal/commonplace book, because I switch my commonplace books around quite frequently. I'm normally in one for like a month and a half to 2 months. And so it's helpful to just have these lists at the back of my weeks. However, I was starting to notice that it was becoming quite chaotic. There were things that I'd written down, leaving more pages than I ended up needing, and things that I wrote down assuming I was only going to need like 1 or 2 pages for, and then once those pages were filled, I found myself needing more, and so I had to start like a new page related to that topic. And so what I wanted to do for this year, I suppose, is split that in quarters. So I'm doing that kind of seasonally. So what I have at the moment is December, January, and February as my first section, and then I'm just going to go 3 months by 3 months, just because it makes more sense to me to think that way. So every quarter I can kind of reset and decide which pages worked, like which I actually needed. Maybe there are new pages that I need another time. Like you'll see in a minute, I left like 4 pages for uni planning, because this is going to span across my first exam session, which is pretty much all of January and February, and so I'll need quite a bit of space to like write that down. I don't do like my rough thinking in these pages. I just write, I've decided that I'm going to do this and I need to have this as a reference in my book at all times. That's kind of how it works. All of the thinking goes either on scrap paper that I then like put up on my wall, like I have done. I've spent the morning doing that, kind of planning my exam session. I put that up on my wall or in my commonplace book, especially like studying trackers and all of that go in my book, go in my commonplace book most of the time. So I thought it made more sense in this case to split things up by season, so I could kind of have that more regular check-in, and I wouldn't have to guess so far in advance how many pages I would need for each section, because I don't really know how to do that. And then what I also did relating to this is, because the weeks, so this is a regular weeks, it's not a weeks mega, so it has 70 pages at the back, like notes pages. So I split that over 4, and it turned out to be, outside, like excluding these 2 pages that are like my intro, it turned out to be about 16 to 17 pages per season, basically. So I went through and I marked every 16th page, so I knew how many pages I had for each season, basically. So now I've set up 10, I think, and I have 6 more that I can use for this season, for things that I might want to set up throughout the next few months. And then I'll do probably another cover page for the next season and kind of go on like that. The idea with this cover page was, first of all, I just wanted to stick in a nice pictures to start the book. It was, I don't know, pictures really, for me, make a book feel like home. I stick in a lot of pictures in my commonplace as well, and because when I look back at books as well, most of the time I'm just looking at the spreads, and I'm mostly looking at what I put in it rather than what I wrote in it, unless there are like specific entries that I want to refer to. Maybe I'll read the titles every once in a while, but I'm not going to go through and read a whole book from start to finish. So it just makes a lot of sense for me to stick in a lot of pictures and put in a lot of stickers. It's something that I genuinely enjoy doing. And I wanted to put a nice cover page. I could have gone for something a bit more wintry, but I took this nice photo that felt very like autumnal the other day, and I wanted to use that. And then I added a couple of my own stickers. And what I'm doing now is I'm writing down, I don't really want to say that I'm setting intentions for the next few months, but it's more like, these are my plans for the next few months. This is what I'm assuming is going to happen over the next few months. This is what I am preparing for. So new art projects, new exams coming up. I wrote a bit about really wanting to get to the holidays as like prepared as possible in terms of uni. Basically get as much uni work done before the holidays, so I can spend those 2 weeks at home with family, really just relaxing, reading, journaling, drawing, whatever it is that I want to do. If we can go skiing, if we can just spend time at home with family or friends, it'll be really nice, but I don't want to have to worry so much about uni work. And so then the first spread that I set up right after this was my uni planning. So as you can see here, I'm kind of going through my notes pages in the previous weeks. I wanted to mention this. In my previous weeks, I don't think anyone remembers, but I had set up an index. I don't use it. I just don't use it. I'm not sure whether I'm going to tag things with my usual sticker dot system in here. I am waiting for my new sticker dots to arrive. I've added a few colors, and that's something that I'm going to continue using in my commonplace book, but I wasn't sure whether I was going to use it in here as well, just because there are so like few entries and they're so general that it doesn't I don't know, it's not necessary. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. If I do end up using it, I can just set on my key in the actual, like the one index page there is in the actual book that is like already printed. But I didn't want to like waste pages and pages for the index that I then don't end up looking back at. It's not a very efficient system for me. So I had a list of the pages that I wanted to set up in my previous weeks. The first thing I did was just go in and add all of the titles. And I thought I was being really, really careful and like waiting a couple of minutes in between like flipping the pages to let the ink dry so it wouldn't smudge on the other page. I wasn't patient enough. I already started off the book with a mistake because the first thing that I wrote was meant to be December to February, and that was meant to be like my heading for the intro page. I ended up writing December to January, and so then I went on a new line and wrote February section. So it was like December, January, and February section. But it was kind of funny to me that I started off the book with a mistake, and then the second thing I do is write these titles, and all of them ended up smudging on the opposite page. It's not a big deal. I'm not particularly precious about my books, and I think especially if a mistake is the first thing that you make in a book, it really takes off that pressure. So I thought I would mention it because it's really easy to think when you're watching these kinds of videos, and it happens to me as well, that like someone else's books are so perfect, and they're really not. They never are. But I started off setting up these pages. So what I have are 4 pages for my uni planning. This is mostly related to my January and February exam session. Then I have 2 pages for my wish list. I have my art tracker. So I set this up last year, and I set it up in a way where I had all of the different stages of a painting, I suppose, with checkboxes, and then I could write like the title of the piece or like a brief description of the piece. What I've decided to do in this case, just because I think it makes more sense, is leave a space. So before the secret line is meant to be like the date, and then after that I can just have a brief description of the project, and I can write when I worked on it, and I think that makes more sense. Then I have a running to film list. That's always helpful. I have a to-do list for when I'm home during the winter holidays. I go home to my parents every weekend, but I'm only ever there for like 2 days at the time, and there are things like going through my wardrobe and like sorting out under the bed and all of those kinds of things that I don't really have time to do over the weekend. So it's nice to do a few of those when I'm at home for the holidays. And then the last one is like a links, references, things to check out kind of checklist page, I suppose. All of those things that like as you're watching videos, or like you see something cool and you think, oh, I should really check that out, and like you maybe save it in your Instagram saved folder or something like that, and then you never go back and check it. This is kind of what I want to do. I had a similar thing in my previous weeks. It was at the very beginning of the book. It was one of the first pages that I set up. And then as I started adding more and more pages, I'm about like on page 30-ish at this point, I just kind of forgot about it because it wasn't within like the cluster of pages that I was using. There were like the first few pages that I set up, and then a few that I used for a while and then didn't need anymore, and then the ones that I'm currently using. And so I never actually go back and check the first ones. So I wanted to include it still. And all of those, like, except from my uni planning and the wish list, everything else only has 1 page dedicated to it. I've not set up a health tracker at the moment because I don't really feel the need to it. It's also something that I really often forget to update. I did a really in-depth health tracker for a month and it was really interesting, but I don't really feel the need to do it anymore. Maybe I will set it up every once in a while, but at the moment I decided not to. And again, I think these like uni pages are a really good example of like how I use these back pages, just because they're just references. So this morning I was like trying to figure out when I was going to go through all of my notes and finish sorting them out and decided what notes I was going to print before Christmas and what can wait, and I can finish up when I come back from the holidays in early January, and I can then print then. And so I was just kind of writing down all of that information, but I'd done all of the working out on a separate piece of paper that is now stuck on my wall, so I don't forget. With these important things, it's helpful to have them in multiple places. It helps to have them, for me personally, it helps to have them right above my desk so I can see them and reference them really, really quickly as I'm studying or like setting up to study. But also, I do bring my weeks book with me to uni, and so oftentimes it's helpful for me to have it on the go as well, or like when I'm at home for the weekend and all of those kinds of things. I also want to do a little bit more decoration in these pages this year. I don't think I have any stickers stuck at the back of my weeks for this previous year, for 2023. But I would like to add a bit more. The weeks is not somewhere that I would ever really journal because it's so tiny. First of all, I was very surprised when I first got it. It's so tiny compared to traveler's notebooks. It's really, really small. And I know the grid is smaller too, but the fact that it's so tiny and the fact that it has a secret line, I really, really hate the secret line. And just the fact that the pages are so thin, it doesn't make me want to journal in it. Like, as much as I love it as a planner, I really don't think it would work as a journal for me. I've been using it as a journal for like a couple of weeks, just a little time at the moment, temporarily before I move it into the Hon, because I've really been feeling the need to daily journal. I'm not doing it every single day, but I'm doing it most days. I do write almost every day in my commonplace book. That is something that I've been doing quite regularly throughout the whole year. But these are different kinds of entries. These are more, this is what happened today and this is how I feel about it, or this is what I've been thinking about today, and this is like the conclusion that I've reached. I don't know, these kinds of things. Or just something really cool happened today and I want to document it, and it's the kind of journaling that I'm planning on doing in the Hon next year, but because that doesn't start until January, it now leaves me in a bit of a weird situation, because I don't want to continue my daily journaling, which I'd been doing at the back of my 2023 weeks, in my 2024 weeks, because those pages are reserved for the next few seasons. So I don't know if I'm going to temporarily move that into my commonplace, even though it's not the kind of journaling that I like to do in my commonplace. I don't think it fits in very well. It's always very awkward. Or whether I'm going to keep doing that at the back of my current weeks, just kind of keep on from there. It's only like 4 or 5 more weeks until I move into the Hon. I'll probably fill like 7 or 8 more pages. I don't necessarily write a lot. It's just a nice bit of like brain dumping at the end of the day. So I'm not really sure. It feels, I don't know, it would have been nice to just have it all in one place, but it's already not all in one place, because I've done all of my memory keeping for majority of the year in a traveler's notebook, weekly plus memo book. I say majority of the year. I've only started that in June or July, whenever I moved into the new weeks, because I was using the first insert from those as my planner, and then I found out about the weeks, or I already knew about the weeks, but the weeks has like the back pages that I needed, and so I moved into the weeks and out of the traveler's notebook. But yeah, if you don't have no idea what I'm talking about and like what my system is actually like, because I feel like I've done a terrible job at like explaining it, I've just been assuming that whoever's listening already knows how my system works. I'll leave links to the videos that I made that actually explain how my system works in the description box. But the system has been working really well for me, and I'm really curious to see how switching out my memory keeping book will kind of affect things. I wanted to start daily journaling at the back of the weeks, because first of all, I've just really been feeling the need for it, but also because I feel like it's helping me figure out what I want to put in the hon and what I want to keep in my commonplace book. There are some entries that for me are very obviously commonplace, but it's a bit unclear what will go in the daily entries and what will not. I also I'm thinking it might be nice to do a bit of drawing in the daily book, but I'm not sure. I don't know how consistently I'll be able to keep up with it. I don't necessarily expect to write a full page every day, even though it is only an A6 book, so it is quite small. I don't necessarily expect to fill it up every day, and it's completely fine if I don't. I also don't know how much sticking in I want to do in the hon, because in my opinion, it would be really nice to stick a lot of pictures in this book, because if it's meant to be a memory keeping book, it will be really nice to look back on, and it will, as I was saying before, it will be really nice to have a lot of pictures to look back on. However, I know these books tend to bulk up a lot, and especially because the Tomoe River paper is so thin, the books contain a lot more pages than any other book with the same thickness, but thicker pages, if it makes any sense. And so you have like these really thin, really compact pages, but then you have a lot more surface to stick things on, and so that's a lot more potential for bulk than there is with other books the same size, if it makes any sense. And so I am really afraid that it's going to bulk up a lot. I have only been sticking in pictures in my weeks for like a couple of weeks, and I've not put that many in, and it's already much thicker than it was before, because the pages are just so thin. It's insane. So I am a bit worried about it, and I wouldn't want to get to like July and have to change book because it's too bulky to write in. So I don't know, I guess I'll kind of work that out as I go along. There's definitely not going to be any like pictures in the weeks. That is my planner. I don't like, kind of the fact that I'm journaling in it at the moment is very much an exception. But I do really love sticking stickers in here. I put a lot of stickers in every single one of my weekly spreads, and I really, really like that, and I'm going to continue doing that. But yeah, I feel like I've gone very off topic, but I don't know. I always get very rambly in these videos. I'm giving you a little bit of a final flip through. It's not particularly interesting. I thought I was going to do a lot more stickers in the pages. I didn't. That's really only like this one picture and like 3 or 4 stickers, but it's fine. I'm really happy with how the setup turned out. I'm very excited to move into this next week. I love the cover so much, and the format itself is a very comforting format for me. I just feel very at home in this book, and this new one already feels very comforting, like just as comforting as the previous one did. Sometimes moving into a new journal can be quite jarring, and I expect moving into the hon will be, because it's so different from what I've had previously. But I don't know, this one just it feels like my perfect planner. I'm just finishing up by adding the clear cover. I've actually moved it back onto my previous weeks for a second, just because I will be bringing it to uni with me this week and I don't want it to get ruined, but I'll move it back over. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope it gave you some ideas if you don't know how to set up your new weeks for 2024. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll be very happy to answer them, or DM me on Instagram, whatever you prefer. And I hope you're having a nice week. Bye.